Very good morning. Today is 19th August 2020. Today in this video we will be having a discussion of the Hindu editorial page and also analysis. But before we get into editorial discussion, this is the cartoon of the day. It clearly shows that one person is there and one figure which is showing that contempt. The finger represents the Supreme Court of India. The person who is in the cartoon is Prashanth. He is a senior advocate, practicing advocate of the Supreme Court. He was found guilty due to his tweets on the Chief Justice of India, Bob Day, also some of the reforms by the government. So, Supreme Court had made him guilty because of that tweets. So, this article represents the scenario of what had happened in the past days. Before I begin, I welcome you all to Wifise Study Karo, where I do daily editorials, job updates and interesting facts, technical glitches. There are 4 articles to be focused. The first article is regarding the India and Nepal makeup. But before we get into this article, let's have a glance on what is a disputed area regarding India and Nepal. So this is the Nepal. As you can see, this is the Nepal's flag, and the portion which is disputed area is the new Nepal map which has emerged. The zoomed area is the new Nepal map, but in old Nepal map it was not there. So the Limfiyadra Kalapani Dupulek Pol, this was claimed by the Nepal government that this area is under Nepal. So India is having the border conflict with India and Nepal due to these 3 areas, that is Limfiyadra, Kalapani and Lipulek. This is the brief review of what had been regarding the India-Nepal dispute. I have also made a dedicated video on India-Nepal border dispute. I will give in the description, and also you can see it from the eye icon right now. And in this video, in the description, you can see the timestamps of different articles, where you can directly go to the different timestamps of the articles, whichever the article you are interested in. This first article is on India and Nepal makeup, that is the mending of the most exemplary interstate relations of South Asia must be as dramatic as a rupture. So when a Nepal-India dispute is over, the Himalayan territory of Limfiyadra that is flared up in May. So nearly opinion makers presented it by doing an upstart nation run by a renegade prime minister thumbing its nose at India, and that too the Beijing's instigation. So Kathmandu's polity bristled at the accusation of the entire political spectrum came together in the nationalist climax to adopt a new map which included Limfiyadra. So there has been a bloodletting over the past 4 months, with one side, that is India, a petulant and the other angry. So New Delhi pointedly says that it will sit for the talks only after the COVID-19 pandemic, and some North Indian TV channels have also targeted Nepal's Prime Minister KP Oli with revolting coverage. So in turn, he abandoned diplomatic decorum to the question of India's commitment to Satyamev Jayati, and they claimed that the true birth of Lord Place was situated in present-day Nepal. So this tailspin must be halted so that the most exemplary interstate relations of the South Asia may recover. So de-escalation must happen before the social, cultural and economic flow across the open border suffer long-term damage. So the fear of abandonment is the right of the bat. The New Delhi analysts must try and understand why Nepal does not have an Independence Day. It would help them in unraveling the Limfiyadra tangle and accepting the need to go back to the actual papers of miscellaneous. So of the East India Company and the successive viceroys and governors general right down in the imperious present. So from the Kathmandu perspective, Indian diplomacy seems increasingly unresponsive under the centralized control of the Prime Minister office. So as geopolitical capacities dwindle, India's commentators have returned to lambasting hapless Pakistan while ignoring China, the true would-be adversary. So with regard to the China, New Delhi had nurtured a paralyzing paranoia regarding the Himalayan range that goes back to 1962 debacle, and the condition now worsened by the Galvan intrusion. So Nepal, Bhutan and India's own Himalayan tracts are regarded merely as strategic buffers under this ossified policy. So in addition, there is a constant preoccupation with the neighbors who had supposedly sold out to China. A confident nation state without the fear of abandonment would behave differently on Limfjandra. So the cause of the chasm that has opened between the Kathmandu and Delhi relates to the disputed ownership of the triangle north of the Koman, including the Limfjandra ride line and high pass into the Tibet and Lipulekh and Kalapani area hosting the Indian Army garrison. So New Delhi's position on the dispute is based on the decades-long position of the territory coupled with Kathmandu's implied acquiescence through its silence and omission of the Limfjandra in its own official map. So Nepal's claims is the center of Treaty of Sugali, whose language reads as Raj of Nepal, renounces all claims to all the country lying to the west of the river Kali. So no agreement has suppressed the treaty, so no subsequent categorical chinachiri by the company or the successor in 1815 document. So essentially, Nepal wants to stay with what was considered upstream Kali at the time of treaty signing 205 years ago. So while the colonized parts of South Asia had dealt western surnames that pervade the maps and frontiers such as Radcliffe, McMahon and Durand, a historically evolved country such as Nepal would tend to rely more on the proof of continuous state administration. So this is regarding the history of what had happened in the past and how Nepal is claiming regarding the Treaty of Sugali, the land, and why India is not accepting, and India is after that they want to settle this issue only after the COVID-19 pandemic. This is regarding the Nepal dispute and also Lipulekh Pali and Kalapani issue. So if you want to see the dedicated video, just click on the I icon, or from the description or at the end of the video you can see that regarding the India and Nepal dispute. The next article just focus upon the colonial process, that is decolonial aims on the Committee for the Reforms in Criminal Laws. So this is regarding the Committee for the Reforms on Criminal Laws, why there is decolonial aims for the colonial process. So the Committee for the Reforms in the Criminal Law locks subjugated groups out of the consultation process. In July, the Ministry of Home Affairs that is constituted a Committee for Reforms in Criminal Law to undo the colonial foundation of our criminal law. So the precise mandate of the committee has not been put into the public domain, but it is apparent that the committee aims to recommend an overhaul of Indian criminal justice system. So among the other judges, lawyers and other activists have voiced their concerns about the composition and operation of the committee. So the reforms based on the committee's recommendations will have serious ramifications for every person who is subject to the criminal justice system. A smoothly functioning legal system determines our freedom and to live authentic lives as a full citizens in a democratic polity. So the maladministration of criminal justice shapes the boundaries of whom we love and what we say, whether we complain about violence, how we respond to hate, and many other foundational aspects of our lives. Despite the pervasive ways in which the criminal laws interact with almost inmate decisions, the scope of the law is now going to be determined by the process that is exclusionary for the most of the Indian citizenry. So if the aim is to decolonize the law by disabling the democratic deliberation, the committee has set itself up for the failure from its very inception. So decolonization was not a moment in 1947. So decolonization is an ongoing process which requires the commitment to undoing the colonial logic of domination governing the citizen-state relations. So the committee's method, on the other hand, entrench structures of the oppression. As we analyze below, they treat a majority of population as having nothing valuable to offer to the reform process. So disabling participation, the committee procedures are designed to disable board-based participation. The exclusive route to participation is the committee's website. However, only 40% of the population actively uses the internet. Internet usage itself is linked to structural barriers. For example, women are less likely to have internet access in Kashmir. Internet services that were suspended in August 2019 are yet to be fully restored. So further, all the committee's documentation and background resources, including 89 reports of the Law Commission of India, are in English. The most reliable estimates suggest that only 10% of Indian population speaks English, and most such persons reside in urban areas. Moreover, the life cycle of the committee coincides with the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has wrought havoc on the people's lives and livelihoods, with several marginalized groups struggling in secure even rudimentary healthcare, education and employment. It is inconceivable that they could participate meaningfully in a reform exercise of this scale at this moment. Finally, there appears to be no representation of the committee of subaltern caste, gender, sexual or religious groups. As far as can tell, there is no representation for the working class or disabled communities, let alone fraught areas of conflict. There is no members on the committee based outside of the limited geographical region in the North India. So it is crucial for the committee tasked with transforming criminal justice to be more representative. It most includes members who can speak and experience of many public governed by the criminal law. So oppressed communities across India are over-policed and also underprotected. Religious minorities as well as impoverished Dalit and Adivasi communities bear the brunt of criminal laws through police violence. So long periods of under-trial detention, harsh punishments and poor legal representation, women, transgender people and sexual minorities who overwhelmingly experience a gender-based violence and also are frequently let down by the criminal justice system. So the committee's composition of the operation render the democratic participation of these groups is impossible. So this is regarding the colonial committee, but it is regarding decolonial rule by the committee of criminal conspiracy. And also some of the disabling deliberations is that opacity has characterized the committee's mandate and working from the outset. There is no published terms of the references. There is also nothing to explain why an ad hoc committee was set up by the task that is relevance and magnitude when such questions of the law reform are typically entrusted by the LCI, which has established procedures to ensure inclusion and transparency. So the committee has not yet undertaken to publish the representation it receives from the public during the consultation process. So now it had explained the circumstances under which the MHA logo was added to its website and then removed, raising doubts about the autonomy. So why was the membership of the committee as originally advertised altered without explanation? There can be no contestation, debate or deliberation without the committee communicating openly and honestly with all its interlocutors. The committee's procedure also inhibit deliberation. The committee is carrying out the consultations from July to October. So within 3 months, respondents are expected to form the articulate and recent opinions of almost every convincible issue of the criminal law, procedure and evidence. So in contrast to the Malimat committee, which had a comparable mandate, took 5 times as long as the committee to submit its report. Just the first of the current committees, that is 6 consultative questionnaires, contained 46 questions, several of them deploying controversial legal concepts as if they had a neutral or objective meaning. So there is no formal documentation explaining the context and relevance of these questions, diminishing the prospects of productive deliberation among the stakeholders. So deliberative democracy is a vision of democracy which requires all members and societies are able to participate in a collective decision making, and also decision making takes place through a reasoned deliberation. It recognizes that participation of political process is hindered by structural inequalities produced by interlocking systems of oppression, including the caste, patriarchy, disableism, and communalism. So, as a response to these hierarchies, a deliberative democracy requires that everyone's participation in decision making by giving a reason for why they prefer a particular course of action. So this reasoning must be made publicly available for others to contest. So where the political decision making takes place in an open and transparent manner, oppressed groups can also influence through strength of their reasons. So this can mitigate the extent to which a lack of economic, social, and political power will otherwise compromise the participation. So inclusive, transparent, and meaningful public consultation process for lawmaking is one practical way to implement the deliberative version of democracy. Unfortunately, the committee falls patently short of these ideals. So it locks subjugated groups of the consultation process so that they have no way of challenging the dominant system of knowledge and governance that currently shape our criminal law. So it is deeply ironic that a committee underpinned by the colonial logic professes that its primary aim is to decolonize the law. So this is regarding the committee which was formed. The author is saying that it is mainly aimed to decolonize the law. The next article is regarding the selective sex on abortion. So, erring on the side of caution on sex-selective abortion, the Supreme Court has again declined to weigh in on the legality of sex-selective abortion rules. So, last week, the Supreme Court deferred the pronouncement of the legality of the center's now lapsed controversial notification relating to the rules of law blaming sex-selective abortions. So, the judge viewed the matter as a closed for now as an April 4 notification pertaining to the preconception or prenatal diagnosis technique, that is on prohibition of sex selection, that is PCPNDT Act, was left to expire by the government on June 30. So the apex court similarly erred on the side of cautions in June, choosing not to stay the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare Gazette notification. So the inference was that such an option would be warranted on only in the suspension of relevant rules was extended beyond June. So the petitioners concerned have thus largely been allied that on April 4th notification loosening the rules ostensibly to cope up with the pandemic would dilute the law. So suspension of rules, one of the impugned rules requires a 5-yearly renewal of registration of genetic laboratories, ultrasound clinics, and imaging centers subject to the fulfillment of eligibility criteria. So another mandate these diagnosis establishment or to submit monthly records on the conduct of pregnancy related procedures to the design authority. So state governments or union territories are required to furnish quarterly report of the center to the center on the implementation of the law. So the Union Health Ministry had maintained that various procedural deadlines were relaxed in the wake of the public health crisis, that such flexibility would no way to jeopardize the larger objective of the law. So on the other hand, activists saw no rationale whatsoever behind the suspension of the rules, since the operation of diagnostic laboratories have been declared essential services. So they were understandably apprehensive that the freeze would result in a large-scale violation. So it is one thing to condone delays in the completion of formalities via an administrative order, but altogether another to declare a freeze via a gazette notification, they argued. So in any case, a 25-year jurisprudence around the PCPNDT legislation does not justify any sanguine approach on the enforcement of the various provisions. So case of in a point which is ongoing litigation regarding the eligibility of medical practitioners to conduct the ultrasound procedures. So in February 2016, the Delhi High Court struck down that the requirement under the 2014 PCPNDT rule of 6 months training period of personal carrying out the ultrasonography. So in challenging that ruling in the Supreme Court, the Indian Radiological and Imaging Association, that is IRIA, stressed and lack the preparation in the MBBS program to conduct the ultrasound procedures, which was a part of the discipline of radiology. So I also cited the relevant Medical Council of India guidelines based on the law. So the court strictures is that Supreme Court stayed in New Delhi the Delhi High Court judgment in 2018 as an interference in legislative policy intended to further the objectives of the law in the face of grave misuse of prenatal diagnostic procedures. So the court last year ruled that the non-maintenance of medical records as per the section 23 of PCPND Act could serve as a conduit in the grave offence of the feticide. So the bench dismissed on the plea the Federation of Obstetric and also Gynecology Societies of India to treat inaccuracies in the paperwork as a clinical error. So in 2016 judgment, the response to the Voluntary Health Association of the Punjab petition, the court authorized a seizure of illegal equipment from the clinics and suspension of their registration, as well as a speedy disposal of the relevant cases by the states. So many of the court strictures go back to the litigation in the early years of the legislation spearheaded by the Center for the Inquiry into Health and Allied Themes. So crucially, the alarming decline witnessed in the recent decades in India, sex ratio at the birth calls for uncompromising adherence to the public policy more than it is evident from evolving a case of law. So this is regarding the Supreme Court decision and also regarding the sex ratio in abortion. The next article is regarding the European Union and Turkey relations. Regarding troubled water. So European Union and Turkey should not let tensions in the Eastern Mediterranean lead to open conflict. The tension in the Eastern Mediterranean soared last week with the Turkey sending an exploration vessel accompanied by the naval fleet to the disputed waters, and France dispatching warships to assist Greece. So the trigger in the recent hostility between the Turkey and Greece, which had historically shared a troublesome relations, that has been discovered a gas in the Mediterranean waters. The EU's plan to transport the gas to its mainland, which would help reduce its dependency on Russia, have raised the region's geopolitical profile. The Turkey and Greece have overlapping maritime claims, but when the EU members and its allies in the West Asia and North Africa made plans to build as a gas pipeline from the Mediterranean to Europe mainland, they kept Turkey out of it, which is infuriated Anarcha. So earlier this year, in the East Med Gas Forum was formed by the Cyprus, Egypt, Greece, Israel, Italy, Jordan and Palestine, and Turkey was again excluded. But Turkey challenged the pipeline project and reached an agreement with the Libya Tripoli-based government, which Ankara is backing, to form an exclusive economic zone, that is EEZ, from its southern shores of Libya's northern coast across the Mediterranean. Greece, claimed by the Turkish zone, violated its maritime sovereignty. Later, Greece announced the EEZ, that is exclusive economic zone, with Egypt, which clashes with the Turkish zone. So immediately thereafter, Turkey sent its survey ship over. The highly complicated issue now has the potential to involve Europe, West Asia and North Africa. It is difficult to demarcate the maritime boundaries in the Eastern Mediterranean, which dotted with the Turkish and Greek islands. Cyprus is physically divided, with the southern part ruled by the internationally recognized government and northern part controlled by the Turkey. So the Turkey survey ship exploration activists around the Greece Crete island, which lies just outside the Turkish Libya economic zone, and Greece and Cyprus call it a violation of their sovereignty. So France and European Union, most powerful military force, had thrown its weight behind the Greece and Cyprus. Now an alliance is emerging among the Greece, Cyprus and Italy, France, which is backed by Egypt, Israel and UAE. Turkey stands almost isolated but remains as a key power in the Mediterranean, which requires the European Union to tread cautiously. So if European Union wants to transport gas from the coast of Israel to Europe via Cyprus and Italy, an open conflict with Turkey cannot help So what is everybody's interest is to nail down the tensions and find diplomatic and mutually acceptable solution to the gas contest. So excluding Turkey, which has a long Mediterranean coast, is unwise. Allowing a resurgent Turkey to bully smaller powers in the region would be strategically disastrous. The European Union has to strike a balance between these two options. So this is regarding the European Union and Turkey, how they should go in only diplomatic talk. That's the end of article discussion. If you are new to my channel, I request you all to subscribe so that you will not miss any updates. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.